And welcome to live Q&A, friends. It's Petra here at Fruition Seeds. Happy Saturday. And is it time to harvest our garlic yet? For us, it is not. For you, the case might be true, and it might be different too. So let's dive into the nuances of what we're seeing and what you might be seeing. And this is live Q&A, so jump right in and don't be shy. And I love to begin all of our live Q&As with a song, story, poem, with something, and this morning, some words from Ella Baker. This may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. This is the opening quote from Adrienne Marie Brown, Emergent Strategy. This may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. And yes, I love this quote on so many levels, but especially it being July 3rd and about to be July 4th, and thinking about what is independence and what is interdependence, and also remembering the wise words of none of us are free until all of us are free. And so how do we celebrate independence and freedom in a time when we so epically have not arrived at this place? And it is a constant arriving, right? A constant becoming and commitment to imagining and then aligning ourselves with that capacity. So yes, this is why the words of Ella Baker. This may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. Why these words are feeding me this Independence Day weekend as I sit with garlic and deep interdependence, and what that is in joy and also in responsibility. So yes, welcome to live Q&A here at Fruition Seeds. I am delighted to accompany each other. Feel free to dive right into the chat and ask whatever you would love to ask. And I will start us off with just some notions of garlic and why we are not quite harvesting our garlic yet. So you can see we've harvested this one beautiful bulb. Oh, it's so beautiful. Not papery on the outer wrappers though. And that paperiness is crucial for us to know that it is time to harvest. But how do we know that the papery skins are there if we haven't dug it up? Here's the thing. All of these beautiful green leaves above the ground correspond with a wrapper below the ground. And so when they're green, they are photosynthesizing. They are actively sending sugars that they have photosynthesized from the sunshine, plants are amazing, straight down into this bulb, becoming this bulb for us all and for the future generations of all garlic to come. And so once these green leaves turn brown, gold, crisp, dry, that is above the ground. That is when they have a corresponding wrapper below the ground that is also silvery and papery, or purple, as the case may be. And so we wait to harvest our garlic until about 1/3 to 1/2 of these leaves are fully brown and crisp dry, and then we go ahead and confidently harvest. You can harvest earlier than that. Just know that they will really struggle to cure, to dry down, and thus to store well. So yes, if you really want to be harvesting them now and eating a few, I won't stop you. But take a look, we harvested this one as well. And you can see the bulb, also these outer wrappers, not at all papery, and these inner leaves, the inner cloves, are surrounded by clove wrappers that are also just almost, it's like they're still attached to the garlic clove because they're acting like placental membranes, which they essentially are. So yes, I'm guessing 10 days to 2 weeks away from harvesting our garlic. Here at Fruition Seeds, we generally harvest about mid-July. And that's about 1 month after they begin to throw the scapes. Those scapes begin to emerge. So there you have it, friends. The quick and the dirty on how and to know when to harvest your garlic. And if you'd love to learn so much more and wow, dive right in to our free seed our free Garlic and Shallot Academy. There's the Seed Starting Academy too. You can dive into that as well. It's still so relevant even though it's July. But certainly that Garlic and Shallot Academy is free and full of great info of even more details of what we're looking for. And then how to harvest, how to cure both hardneck and softneck. There's tons of great info just waiting for you totally for free there at fruitionseeds.com in our Garlic and Shallot Academy. And Joe, hello from the Catskills. My shallots have flopped over, which you said was a sign it was time to harvest onions. Yes, but we are weeks away from garlic harvest up here, and you said shallots take longer than garlic. Trying to crack the mystery of shallot harvest time. Yes, oh my gosh, there's always so much more to share. Yes, so garlic and shallots, and onions are so different. And so although they've flopped over, you want to wait until you'll see. It's nice, those shallots are like most of the way above the ground. They're not buried so much, especially if they're really happy. They're actually like stacked on top of each other. And so once you can see that those shallots that are above the ground are turning papery, that's the sign. So yeah, very much unlike onions, they fall over much earlier than an onion would, but they're still a few weeks away from being harvested. So you'll want to wait for the leaves to really start just not being bright green and like turgid firm, but to have those looking at that shallot bulb and those wrappers and waiting for them to become papery is key. I'm so glad you asked, my friend. And Joy says, Happy 4th, Joyce. Enjoy this weekend. And Marissa says, my garlic leaves browned and drooped end of June, so I pulled them, wondering if I did wrong. They never had scapes. Well, it depends where you are and what varieties you have. So keep in mind that hardneck garlic only throw scapes. Their scapes emerge. When I say throw, I really mean emerge, and it's just fun to think of them throwing their scapes up. But so only hardneck garlics throw scapes. Softneck garlic, they're soft because they don't have that hard neck, and so they will fall over more readily and they will drop and brown, although they tend to not in our garden. They tend to only fall over about 2, even 3 weeks after it would have been ideal for them to actually be harvested. So it sounds like, unless you're in Alaska, I'm a little concerned that they were just stressed or otherwise sad. So I'm going to go ahead and encourage you to send any pictures that you have to Heather at fruitionseeds.com, and she and I will be happy to accompany you with those photos. It's hard saying not knowing, as John Shoemaker so brilliantly says. So I would love to get an eye on your garlic, my friend, so that we can really be sure, because that just seems really, really early and unusual, especially if your hardneck garlic is doing that and not throwing scapes. There's still likely some disease that's going on. And Kitty says, hello, Petra. I share your dreams in Boston. Happy 4th weekend. Sending love. And is there a good chart which would list veggies and ideal soil content, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all in one place? Oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing. I don't know that you really need such a chart, because if you're doing well by all of your plants, with the exception of blueberries, all of your garden, they might have subtle nuances, but honestly, feeding the soil rather than the crop is key, and making sure that your soil is just full of organic matter and the highest quality and the largest spectrum of nutrients possible. That is the dream, rather than being like, I know I need a little more nitrogen here and a lot more magnesium. Like, okay, great. Make sure that your beets have their boron. But if you're making sure that your soil in general it's like, think of nutrition and human nutrition. Like, yes, it's true. Eat right for your blood type. I fully subscribe. And just make sure you're eating like as much as you can, 3 meals a day, and eating whole foods that aren't processed, and focusing on vegetables and lots of different kinds of vegetables, right? So yes, each of us needs a little different nutrient content, but really we all just need access to the highest quality foods and to have as little stress as possible so we can be as healthy as possible. And so maybe I'm talking in circles, so let me wrap it up real quick. I don't think you actually need that chart on a lot of levels. But what you do need is access to having soil tests, which your local cooperative extension can offer you for $20, a fully comprehensive soil test. So then you can know what in general your soil is lacking. So then you can be making sure that you are growing the richest, most comprehensively fertile, nutrient-rich soil you possibly can, and then your plants will be so happy. Regardless of who wants what in terms of the nuances, you want just a big, yummy bathtub of deliciousness for them all to grow in. And I'm so glad that you asked. And Sophia says, good morning, Petra. I have several 20-gallon fabric pots with different varieties of potatoes. First time growing potatoes. I've hilled them to the top of the pot, but the greens are so tall they're falling over. Should I leave them alone or tie them up? Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm so glad that you're growing potatoes. And I'm curious, I just want, as a general rule, if you're growing potatoes in containers, you only want to fill that soil 2/3 of the way up to the top. So you don't want to fill the soil of the container growing potatoes, because imagine this beautiful garlic bulb is in fact a potato. Only potatoes grow above that mother potato. No potatoes are going to grow adjacent or below. So that's why you only want to fill your container soil with 2/3 soil, so that you can be adding soil, so that you can be actively hilling as you are. I love it, Sophia, that beautiful potatoes. So that way you'll be harvesting that much more potatoes. So they're so tall, they're falling over. Oh my gosh, it sounds like they have a lot of extra nitrogen in their lives. And honestly, rather than tying them up, I would go ahead and try to find, whether it's grass clippings, straw, something that where you can actually begin to mulch and just like stuff that mulch in between all of those long stems of your potatoes, and that way it'll start to break down. You can harvest that many more potatoes in it. If you are just tying them up, your likelihood of growing another potato is zilch compared to just continuing to hill it above the soil, above the pot line, the top of the container. So yeah, grass clippings and straw are the first two ideas that leap to mind. Certainly if you have compost, do that, and worm castings, you'll be harvesting that many more potatoes, my friend. So thanks so much for asking, and I'm so glad that you're growing potatoes. And how do I know if my garlic is hardneck or softneck? So if you know the name of your variety of garlic, you can do a quick Google search. If you get it from Fruition, it'll say on our website with that variety name if it's hardneck, if it's softneck. If you don't know the variety, here are some ways to know. The hardneck garlic will throw scapes. Scapes will emerge out of a hardneck garlic, will not emerge out of a softneck garlic. And those scapes emerge about 1 month prior to garlic harvest. And generally, honestly, whether you live in Georgia or Alaska, that scape is going to emerge anywhere from mid-May to mid-late June. So honestly, if your scapes haven't emerged already, chances are that they won't emerge. And so chances are you have a soft neck garlic. But certainly the proof is in the pudding when you harvest your garlic, when 1/3 to 1/2 of your garlic leaves are crisp and brown. That's when you harvest, lift up that garlic. And at that point, you'll cure it. And then after it's cured, it depends, 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on the weather, the temperature, the humidity, depending on all of those factors, you'll cure the garlic with the head, with all of those leaves on. But then when you go and cut that garlic, that's when you'll see, can you see that kind of small diameter of that white hard neck, if you will, inside? And you can see the concentric rings of all the leaves around that hard neck. In a soft neck garlic, there's not that central ring, and there's only just concentric leaf after concentric leaf. So, and if you want to just simply harvest one bulb and cut it and then, eat it for dinner, that's awesome. And then you'll know if it's a hard neck or soft neck too. And yeah, keep in mind, you can totally jump in. There's lots of info just like this and so much more in our free Garlic and Shallot Academy on our website, fruitionseeds.com. And also, shameless plug, we're part of Garlic. Our organic, gorgeous seed stock garlic is available for pre-order now. So you can hop online and reserve yours now as well. And best time to pull garlic, very healthy, and we already harvested the scapes. Yeah, so you want to harvest your garlic about 4 weeks after your scapes emerged. So we started harvesting our garlic scapes about mid-June, and we're a couple weeks away from harvesting our garlic yet. And we're gonna wait till 1/3 to 1/2 of these leaves, rather than being green, are gold, brown, dry, crisp. Those crisp leaves correspond to papery wrappers underneath the ground around that garlic. So glad you asked. And I know it's late, but I neglected to cut my scapes, says Anne. Should I still cut them now? I would, because it's just harder to tie them up and cure them, at least if you're doing thousands and thousands. Welcome to our 15,000 bulb ocean of garlic behind me. So yes, for us, it makes a big difference to have those garlic scapes off when it comes to the curing process. If you have less than probably 100, it's not that big a deal, but it does make it more cumbersome. So I would go ahead and cut them, but know that it's totally optional, and I'm so glad that you asked. And Marissa says, thank you, Petra. Thank you, Marissa. And Nancy says, hi, when can I start reaching into my potato dirt mound to harvest little potatoes? Thank you for your great advice. My gardens are beautiful and even have a dahlia bloom. Woohoo! That's amazing. Sending love to you all, potatoes, dahlias, and certainly you, Nancy. And yeah, once your potatoes are flowering, and you don't need to remove potato flowers, once your potatoes are flowering, they are initiating tuber development. So within a week of those potatoes flowering, that's when you can go in and start to harvest a few little of those new potatoes, those tiny, lovely little tubers. So glad you asked. And yeah, and then anytime after that too, they'll just continue to be growing potatoes for the rest of the season. And Stu says, speaking of blueberries, any recommendations on how to prep soil to acidify it for future blueberry bushes? So I am no expert on blueberries. I don't want to even pretend. I think Cornell Cooperative Extension has some awesome advice out there, and I believe sulfur is what they're using to acidify the soil for blueberries. I know there's also recommendations of putting on pine needles, but I think there's some complications there in terms of actually consistently knowing exactly the pH of the soil, and it can be variable, and also the resins in that soil can be have other not so pleasant effects. So but I would go ahead and reach out to Extension and just Google Cornell Cooperative Extension blueberry soil prep, and they will have a ton of awesome info. I'm learning a ton about fruit trees right now. We're getting really obsessed with orchards and orcharding and perennial fruits, but blueberries are the horizon beyond the horizon. So alas, and thanks for asking, Stu. Pancho, so glad you joined us. And do shallot leaves turn brown like garlic to indicate it's time to harvest? They don't. Yeah, shallots are definitely quite different than garlic. And go ahead, at the risk of deflecting your question, hop into our free Garlic and Shallot Academy on our website, fruitionseeds.com. And that free online course has so much info, and you'll see lots of pictures pictures and videos of me with all of these plants at all of these different stages. But yeah, the shallots we harvest generally about 2 to 3 weeks, often just 2 weeks after our garlic. And we're really, the leaves will be bright green still. Often they'll fall over, and we're really looking because often those shallots, they're above the ground, some of them, and we're waiting to see, oh hi, when those papery skins are fully turning copper and papery, and that is our key that we're looking for. And Kara says, having a hard time getting sunflowers to come up, as well as my zucchini and summer squash. What might be going on? Never had this happen before. If they are not coming up, as in not emerging, as in where are they? Are they even there? They probably aren't. Zucchini, summer squash, sunflowers, those seeds are delicious. And so it's very devastating, but they can be really noshed to bits by chipmunks, by squirrels, by those kinds of small rodents. So if they're not coming up at all, chances are that they are simply getting munched. You can also go into the ground and kind of dig down and see if you can find the seeds, because sometimes you can see them, and in which case they haven't gotten eaten. But if you can't find them at all, chances are good that little rodentia have enjoyed them prior, and that is really, really frustrating. In that case, I'd always like to direct sow them rather than transplant, but you can in fact transplant them, especially in large soil blocks or peat pots, and so that way they can get ahead of the curve of those little tiny munching mouths. And Donna says, thank you so much for all the info. My pleasure, Donna. Thanks for joining. It's always fun. And Petra says, what variety, or Emily says, hi Petra. Hi Emily. What variety are you holding now? This is our Chesnock Red. Isn't that heavenly? And you can pre-order all of our garlic, our seed garlic, now on our website actually, this just in. And just a couple more questions, friends. Angela says, oh, Angie, good morning. Sending you such a huge hug. My broccoli has no sign of blossoming. Almost looked damaged, but leaves are huge. What could be going on? A bug? You might have Swede Midge, Angie. I'm really sad if you do. We actually have some Swede Midge here at Fruition Seeds too. And Swede Midge is this tiny little midge, if you will, a fly of sorts, and they're so tiny. You basically don't see them, but you see their damage. And their damage is they just love to eat the sweetest, most nutrient-dense part of the plant, which is that apical bud, especially as it's beginning to bloom. And they love brassicas, as in like Swede Midge. They love those brassicas especially. So broccoli, cauliflower, kale, collards, and especially something like kale, because there's so many leaves, it's not the biggest deal. But when it comes to something where you're attached to eating that fruiting apical like bud of broccoli, they're just eating back those little buds endlessly. And so the leaves are looking great of the broccoli, but the head just is really deformed and really struggling to grow, because every time it grows, there's lots of little Swede midges that are just munching it to death. So I am guessing that you have Swede Midge, but here's the thing, you should send us a picture. And send us a picture to heather@fruitionseeds.com. And a picture is 1,000 words. Also, maybe I'll bring over a salad and let's share supper and let's go for a little garden stroll. I miss you so much and love you so much, and sending love to your broccoli as well. And Jenna says, I want to grow garlic like those. You can! Please do! Start with awesome garlic, the biggest, most beautiful seed stock that you can. We'd love to share ours. And don't skimp in the soil in the fertility department, and jump right into our free online course, our Garlic and Shallot Academy. There are dozens and dozens of videos, and it's not that hard, but it's far from foolproof. And there's so much more to share, and I can't wait to. So our final question is from Bill. Hi, Petra. Clipped half my garlic scapes when they were ready, but I inadvertently allowed the second half to get tall and stiff. Did I goof? I mean, It's honestly not a huge deal. There is, for some reason, it like boggles my mind with the research that's happened around garlic scapes and harvesting or not harvesting and its relationship to size of bulb. Miraculously, I mean, it just is kind of counterintuitive to me, but there actually isn't a lot of evidence that harvesting that garlic scape dramatically will increase the size of your garlic bulb. I'm still a skeptic. I can't imagine that it's not making a difference. But the thing is, because it's delicious, why not? And we find that those long, beautiful garlic scapes make it just more challenging for us to hang them consistently in our barn. I mean, we have 15,000 garlic behind me, so we're harvesting a ton. So it makes a difference for us to make sure that there's no garlic scape on it. But honestly, for you, I would not say that it's a goof at all. You just missed out on eating a few of the most delicious, garlic scapes in the world. But if you don't mind, I would honestly recommend leaving a few and just getting to know what happens in that stage of their life cycle and how they cure there. And if you don't mind, or if you do mind, putting them in bundles and curing. So yes, it's far from a goof, my friend. And a garden is just a great place to learn all kinds of things. And no judgment ever, only learning opportunities. Oh my gosh, and I know I said that was going to be my last question, but I see, Rachel, you're asking about things going to seed, and I can't help myself. So Rachel says, I let some tatsoi go to seed. The flowers were so pretty. And how will I know when the seed pods are ready to save the seed? Oh my gosh. So great question. And I am so glad you're saving seeds. I just want to shout that out endlessly. And so here's the thing. They're beautiful flowers. I love the smell of tatsoi flowers. And then those flowers, the petals will fall off and these long green pods will emerge that are full of seeds. Green seeds when the pods are green. And as that pod begins to turn gold and brown, those seeds are beginning to turn dark and dry inside. And so they flowered from the bottom up. They're going to be maturing their seed from the bottom up. And so you can either, if you just want to be harvesting each individual pod, golden pod, as they harvest, fabulous. I won't stop you. But you can also, what we do is wait for the very bottom most of those stalks to be shattering, and then we harvest the entire thing, and that way we get kind of the middle of the, everything is on a bell curve. Then we get the middle of the bell curve of plants that are going to be full of the most seed, because the top seed isn't going to be maturing at that point, and the bottom seed already shattered, but you've got the middle of the bell curve of the most of that stalk is going to be gloriously sharing seed with you. And oh my gosh, check out our YouTube channel, check out our website. We have a bunch of great videos on how to thresh and clean brassica seed, and it is so much fun. And thanks so much, friends. I am so glad to share a little live Q&A with you this beautiful Saturday morning. And I love to end, as we begin all of our live Q&As, with a little something, and this morning some words from Ella Baker. This may only be a dream of mine, but I think and can be made real. These are the opening quote of Adrienne Marie Brown's Emergence Strategy, one of my favorite books of all time. This may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. And friends, I love this quote right now, especially on Independence Day, July 4th weekend, because what is independence? Maybe freedom, but none of us are free until all of us are free. And what is, rugged individualism in that toxic masculine trait, if not independence? And so what is this interdependence that maybe is the antidote to all of the disconnection that we're feeling and all of the social rupture that we're seeing. So how can we really see each other as ourselves? What does independence look like in a garden? We would not be eating much if it were not for the grace of all of these plants. And they wouldn't be growing if it weren't for us saying, hey, here's this place. So what is this joyful, reciprocal interdependence that we find ourselves in? So how can we be celebrating the freedom, the dream of freedom for all of us in this country and on this world this weekend? And how can we be living into the joys of interdependence and also the responsibilities of interdependence in our garden this weekend as well? So yes, I love these words from Ella Baker. This may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. Happy interdependence weekend, friends. Sending love from our gardens to yours. We couldn't do this work without you. And what a joy to join you and be accompanied